What's up guys, Noor here and welcome to Book of Showtime Chapter 58. As always, if you have a topic you'd like for me to cover for Book of Showtime, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below or anywhere you can reach me on social media or the Book of Showtime Discord. So back in Chapter 50, I teased you guys about this series, but now after a few months I'm finally ready to show it off. In today's chapter, we'll be taking a closer look at one of my all-time favorite movies, Pulp Fiction. We'll be pondering how a few things would play out differently if a few minor instances went the other way. Let me know what you think about this concept and let me know what movies you'd like to see for What If, and let's begin. Now, while the original movie isn't presented in chronological order, I will be covering it in the order the event actually happens for continuity. Let's begin with the apartment scene. What if Marvin tipped off Jules and Vincent about the third man? This might actually be the biggest what if in the entire movie if we're talking pure repercussions. This event basically triggers everything that happens in Pulp Fiction. Everything. Not playing. The scene plays out with Jules killing Flock of Seagulls on the couch, that's a funny name for a character, and then killing Brett, but what if Jules and Vincent knew about the third man hiding in the bathroom? They would have been ready for him and the instance of divine intervention doesn't happen, which means they don't discuss it in the car, and Marvin doesn't die, which means the Bonnie situation never happens. If the Bonnie situation never happens, Jules and Vincent don't wind up at the diner or spend time disposing the body. They go directly to Marcellus Wallace and deliver the briefcase. In this scenario, they also avoid seeing Butch too, which means Vincent doesn't insult Butch, and Butch continues on with the plan to take the dive. Now, do you see how this little slip up by Marvin led to so much? This also means, yes, there's more, this also means Vincent gets to his dealer earlier, and if that happens, he possibly gets his heroin in balloons instead of baggies. This is a key plot feature that not many people will pick up on. Cocaine is typically distributed in baggies, and the heroin is usually found in balloons. This is why later on in the movie, Mia Wallace mistakes the heroin in Vincent's coat for cocaine, which, what if you simply didn't do drugs you found in somebody else's coat? That's a very strange thing to do, but we'll touch up on that later. Alright, next scene, the Bonnie situation. What if Vincent wasn't a moron? What if he simply wasn't holding a loaded gun with its safety off inside of a car? Even those who've never held a gun or dealt with gun safety have to know that, right? And Vincent is supposed to be a career criminal. In fact, what if Vincent just didn't do heroin? Half this movie goes a very different way. Vincent comes off pretty incompetent at times, and his constant constipation from drug use has proven to be an issue that we'll see come up many times in this video. So the movie plays out, Phil Lamar gets his brains painted all across the car, and the two cheeseburger-loving hitmen are forced to stop at Jimmy Dimmick's house, where Jimmy informs him that his better half will not be too pleased if she comes home to find gangsters and cadavers about. By the way, one of the more infamous scenes in the movie is the dead African-American storied scene. It's funny to me that Jimmy uses that word, and then we find out his wife is black. I mean, did she give him the pass, or they figure that, hey, listen, I married one, so I could say it? You know, what's going on there? But I digress. Honestly, the Bonnie situation, there's not much to nitpick at there, but the diner scene afterwards, that has a little bit to poke at. What if Jules and Vincent never show up, whether it be from my earlier scenario where Vince doesn't cap Marvin, or after they dispose his body, they rush right to Marcellus Wallace's house? Well, nothing that exciting. Ringo and Yolanda's robbery probably goes off without a hitch, and we don't get that iconic monologue from Jules. Now, revisiting an earlier question, what if Vincent didn't do drugs? What if he was in the booth and not in the bathroom when the robbery started? Does it play out the same, or does Vincent's antics get him or Jules killed? Does he set off a firefight in the diner? I think the movie goes very differently if Vincent wasn't able to sneak in later. Now, and this would be a tough one, but what if the divine intervention incident didn't weigh on Jules so much? What if he didn't retire? Now, and this would be a tough one, but what if the divine intervention didn't weigh in on Jules as much? What if he didn't retire? Well, he probably shoots Ringo and Yolanda, and that's either a wise thing or a foolish thing, as there's plenty of witnesses in the diner, but at the same time, he saves all of them from being robbed, which, personally, I wouldn't say a word. I would not be snitching in that scenario. Imagine having to get all your bank cards replaced, your ID, your driver's license, all of that. It's such a hassle. That's actually my biggest fear about somebody trying to rob me, is not losing any money, because you can get the money back. It's all the time they take, because I have to go and replace everything. It would suck. Okay, moving on, let's jump over to the quote-unquote date between Vincent and Mia Wallace. We already talked about Vincent getting the heroin in the wrong package, but what if Mia didn't survive her overdose? What if Lance refuses to help her, or the adrenaline shot doesn't work, or was more scientifically accurate? There's actually been a long-standing debate about whether or not this would work. Let me know down below what you think. Would the adrenaline shot work or not? Marcellus Wallace probably kills Vincent in retaliation for his wife dying in his care, and this means that Vincent isn't waiting for Butch in his apartment later on. It's someone more competent who isn't running to the toilet every 5 minutes, and Butch gets killed or worse. This also means that Marcellus Wallace might not be at the fight. He could be mourning Mia, and it might be a while before he finds out about Butch's deception. Once again, going back to the beginning of the video, what if Vincent simply didn't do drugs? He would have saved himself a night of trauma had he just stayed off the needle. Finally, we arrive at the last arc of the movie, the Gold Watch Saga. I mentioned earlier that Marvin not tipping the hitman off about the third guy in the bathroom set everything in motion, and here it shows again. The Bonnie situation and the diner robbery cost Vincent and Jules about 2 to 3 hours of time that could have been spent delivering the case to Marcellus Wallace. But fate would have it that Vincent and Butch were at the bar at the same time. What if Vincent simply didn't say anything to Butch? In fact, let's say the movie plays out the same minus this little comment, which I know the comment is important in Butch finding his pride, but what if Vincent kept his mouth shut? When Butch confronts Vincent in the apartment, does he still gun him down? I don't think Butch initially planned on killing who was in the bathroom, but once he saw who it was, his pride took over, and he's like, alright, remember what you said earlier? BAM! What if Butch kept the watch on himself? He trusted Fabiana to pack the watch, but she seems to be a bit of an airhead and forgets, and he openly laments this too. Had he just packed the watch himself, they could have split town ASAP, no trouble, although in this timeline, Marcellus Wallace is still looking for him, and we honestly don't know how powerful he is. We don't know how far his reach goes outside of Los Angeles, so maybe it's for the best that Fabiana is kind of goofy. Once again, we go back to Vincent and his drugs. What if Vincent wasn't in the bathroom when Butch arrives? Well, quite simply, this is where Butch's story comes to an end. He either gets blasted on by Vincent or finds himself at the mercy of Marcellus Wallace. What if Butch didn't stop to have Pop-Tarts? By the way, let me know down below. Are you a team Pop-Tart or are you team toaster strudel? Now, think about Pop-Tarts that you can have them at any time. Don't gotta heat them up. They're better when you heat them up. Toaster strudels, you gotta toast them. You know, that's the main thing. So, let me know, is it worth toasting the toaster strudels, or is the Pop-Tarts versatility something that puts it over toaster strudels? Let me know down below. In this scenario, he's out the apartment a few minutes earlier and he doesn't run into Marcellus Wallace. He gets back to Fabiana and they split town. Marcellus is still looking for him, but Vincent gets to live another day. Either way, I wonder what Jules' reaction to Vincent dying would be. I know Jules is retired, but would he feel like if he was there, Vincent would still be alive? I mean, it's like immediately after he retires, Vincent dies. I know that must weigh on him. Speaking of Jules, what if Jules didn't retire? It's safe to assume he'd be at the apartment instead of Vincent or with Vincent, and Jules is obviously the smarter of the two hitmen. He's not letting his guard down, especially when there's only one way into the apartment. Another scenario that sees Butch meet his demise. Alright, the apartment scene continues as written, and now we move on to the final part of the movie, the pawn shop. Alright, the apartment scene continues as written, and now we move on to the final part of the movie, the pawn shop. Now the big what if here is, what if Butch left Marcellus Wallace at the mercy of Zed and Maynard, which, that's a lame name, Maynard. There's actually a deleted scene of that on YouTube. I'll be sure to link it down below. This was an interesting scene, and I'm glad it was cut and we got the scene where Butch does save Marcellus, and it's an interesting dynamic as they were both about to kill each other in the prior scene. I guess they were like, listen, there's real evil out here, okay? There's worse people that we have to band together against. What if Zed and Maynard didn't have a GIMP stand guard? Seriously, does no one else find it weird that the dude with his mouth zipped up, chained to a hook, was left to stand guard? What was he supposed to do to alert them? Why wasn't all this done in one room? You know, if you look into that next room that they brought Marcellus Wallace into, it was big enough to have everybody in. You know, criminals they're so stupid. And finally, what if the movie was presented in order? A large part of what made Pulp Fiction special is this non-linear storytelling. It's actually a huge deal at the time to see lead John Travolta get mowed down halfway through, which is one thing I love about Quentin Tarantino movies. No one is safe. Would Pulp Fiction have had the same cultural impact? You let me know down below. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this concept. Let me know what you would think would happen if certain things went differently in Pulp Fiction. As for the What If subseries itself, I plan to focus exclusively on movies, but I am willing to do games or even sports events if the right one is presented to me. Inshallah, I will see you in the next chapter.